Honorable Excellencies, dear video stream audience, participants from far and wide, ladies and gentlemen. I am a Latvian Canadian, and this just triggered a reflection. It's actually my growing up with the folklore of Canada building a railway from coast to coast that inspired me and convinced me to take on the great adventure of leading the Rail Baltica project. There's a great Canadian singer-songwriter by the name of Leonard Cohen who has a song which is the Great Canadian Railway Trilogy. Look it up. I hope that there are some Baltic songwriters out there somewhere that can make this up in 10 years' time, and we have the Great Baltic Railway Trilogy, a great story to tell about how we have bound these three nations even closer together, of course binding Finland and Poland to the rest of Europe. Now, yesterday's Global Forum, Rail Baltica Global Forum Day, concentrated on the project's economic, actually political viability and cooperation and opportunities. Today, as Edwin's also said, we will be much more hands-on, as I'm sure that each individual in this room, or the ones listening to me now, want to be able to figure out how he or she or it will be able to get a part of the business that is connected with Rail Baltica. We had very many interesting trips in the course of the past year, and will continue to do so. And one of the most interesting ones was with HS2 in the UK. And both HS2 and Crossrail gave us experience about project management. And the officials from HS2 said a very wise thing to us. And they said, we are not a project management company, you know. It says, we are intelligent clients, and we're looking for those who will help us. So please look upon RB Rail as the intelligent client that wants to be able to enter into a relationship with many of you here in this room. Our audience today has a breadth of international representation rarely seen in this region. Clearly, we have the 500 participants in the room. I know that we have quite a few more connected to us on the video stream from 18 countries, which is pretty cool, I must say, for a project of this nature. And you are all interested in being very tangibly involved in the Rail Baltica project. So I hope that you will help us make sure that the first passengers get on the first train in 2026. We hope to make this particular event an annual event, though rotating between the Baltic capitals. So next year, more or less around this time, you can probably expect to come to Tallinn. Today's focus in the program is very much on the here and now. The project's organization, procedures, and standards, which is extremely important to deliver the best project that we can. You will have an overview of the expected procurement for 2017, an on-site visit for those that registered in a timely fashion, I gather, for in Riga Central Station, and I gather that trip was booked really quickly. And last, but certainly not least, to meet with other suppliers serving the railway industry. And those of you that have not had the opportunity of coming here on time, there you have the link to our suppliers site. But to be able to make this happen, from my point of view, I need a strong team. If a year ago, or if at the end of last year, we were about 7 to 9 people, today we are over 24, and as of yesterday, I have a management team with a chief financial officer, a chief operating officer, and a chief technical officer, and I'll ask the gentleman to stand up. They're somewhere right over here, Ignas Degutis, Denis Marushko, and later you will see the chief operating officer, because he will already work today with a presentation for you, Kaspars Rokans. Let me give you a few facts about the project itself, in case you don't know. This is the largest Baltic region infrastructure project in the last 100 years. And it is infrastructure for both passenger as well as freight traffic. We intend to provide intermodality and multimodality. It will be a fast conventional railway powered by electricity, thus less noise, less vibration, and environmentally friendly. We expect the construction period to be 10 years. Maybe we can reduce some of it. Let's take a look. And as of yesterday, the length of the railway that we are building is 870 kilometers in total. The project is part of the European Union's TEN-T North Sea Baltic Core Corridor. Our investment is expected currently to be in the order of 5.8 billion euros in the region. The project is implemented by Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and it is also financed by these three countries, as well as a generous investment from the European Union in terms of CEF financing. Here we have the overview of the technical parameters for the project. As I said, it's a new fast conventional double-track electrified and ERTMS-equipped railway line with a maximum design speed of 240 kilometers an hour on the route from Tallinn through Pärnu, Riga, Panevėžys, Kaunas to the Lithuanian-Polish border, and with a connection from Kaunas to Vilnius, as well as from Riga Central Station to Riga Airport. The new railway line will be designed with a 1435 millimeter gauge, thus conforming to all requirements on the technical specifications for interoperability. The project timeline, as you see in this picture, demonstrates that it is a project of high complexity. This is, I think, my favorite word of 2016, complexity, as it involves very many partners, many phases, and many implementing bodies to have a planning phase, design phase, and a construction phase. So you see where the different entities of authority, what planning stages they are in between now and 2026. Some of you maybe were unable to see yesterday's presentation of the cost-benefit analysis, so let me share some key figures for you from the CBA. First of all, who will be the main users? They are clearly the domestic and intra-Baltic passengers. We are looking at a passenger flow potential of from 4 million to 7 million passengers from 2026 to 2055, assuming that we are excellent at finding the right operators and finding the right commercialization plan. What is important is that we are providing a passenger service that will be aligned to ensure point-to-point and intra-Baltic travel in particular. Clearly, it is important how the railway will develop north to link with Helsinki, and of utmost importance is a proper link to Poland. And we hope that over time we will also persuade our Polish partners to increase their speed to 240 in time as well, or at a bare minimum 200. So Poles, be aware. The second part, which is extremely important for the viability of the railway, is of course freight service, which is intended really to serve the north-south, south-north, and west-east flows. Here you see the expected volumes in terms of millions of tons that we see as a freight flow potential from 2026 to 2055 as well, which will be from approximately 12 million tons to 25 in that period. It is important to note that Finnish trade is genuinely of relevance in here. We're looking at about 1/3 of freight most likely coming from Finland. And of course, in the cost-benefit analysis, it really is the question of what is the benefit and what is the cost. As we've already stated several times, the investment cost is 5.8 billion euros. It has increased from the 5 million euros of a few years ago simply because more has been put into the cost. The connection to from Riga Central Station to the Riga Airport is included, for example. The connections also between Vilnius and Kaunas and other small details, which increase simply the amount of what we are building. The calculation is for social economic benefits really to be at 16.2 billion euros once the investment is made. Looking at it in very different terms, it is certainly beneficial to everybody involved for the investment, assuming, of course, that we really don't exceed the projected investment as of today very much. If you take a look at the socioeconomic benefits that we have, that Ernst & Young has estimated, it's actually rather conservative. The study itself uses rather conservative data. If we are looking at the benefits that passengers or freight will give, you will see that it is we have the passenger carrier operating profits. So if there are operators out there looking to become passenger operators, please consider your engagement in the future with us. You're looking at additional freight transportation savings and expenses. To a large extent, here you have both the passenger time travel savings and a lot of environmental impact improvements for the general public. All of these numbers will be, and the study itself will be accessible in more detail in the first week of May. The presentation of yesterday for the cost-benefit analysis is already available to you online, connected to yesterday's intervention by Ernst & Young. Who is RB Rail? We are certainly the main coordinator. As you know, the project is being implemented by the three Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And the beneficiaries of the project are also these Baltic states. The infrastructure that we are building will belong to each nation. It doesn't belong to RB Rail, to make that perfectly clear. The joint venture has been established to really be the main coordinator in 2014, but I think that we are really up and running as of last year to be a proper coordinator for the project. We also have other implementing bodies, clearly, as you see on the right-hand side, which are Rail Baltica Estonia, the Estonian Technical Regulatory Authority, Interoperability Linijas and in Latvia, and Rail Baltica Statyba with Lietuvos Geležinkeliai in Lithuania. All construction will be carried out by the implementing bodies, and it will be done under our supervision and is based on the common procurement principles, rules, and contract templates that we will be sharing with you in the course of the morning. Our role as, I think, coordinators and as a joint venture is first and foremost to represent the project and ensure its interoperability overall. That is one of the learnings that the European Union has made over the past years, to make sure that there is a body that is responsible for interoperability. And as several speakers yesterday indicated, interoperability from the very beginning is one of the main criteria for a successful project. Secondly, it is our responsibility to ensure that all shareholders' interests are represented, not just one shareholder's interests. And if we were to have Finland and Poland move from being observers of RB Rail's activities to actual shareholders, I think it's very important that everybody understands that we are able to not take or have a specific opinion on behalf of one of our shareholders. Most importantly, it is our mandate to ensure cost savings generated by the economies of scale, which will be seen in the different approaches to procurement. And clearly, we are responsible for successful project implementation. So what underpins the ability to now implement the project? First, we have two Connecting Europe facility grants already signed. In 2015, 2016, we're looking forward to the results from the CEF3 call. More importantly, we have an interbeneficiary agreement signed, which determines how monies actually flow between the joint venture and the three beneficiaries based on the CEF agreements. The most important agreement, in my opinion, that delineates how we work all together is the contracting scheme, about which you will hear a bit more, but which clearly says who is responsible for what in terms of procurement. And last but definitely not least is the intergovernmental agreement that was signed by all three Baltic countries in January of this year and still needs to be ratified in all three countries. What do we need to achieve this year? It really is to have a clear point of no return based on project maturity. And what do we mean by project maturity for Rail Baltica? We have to make sure that all three countries have confirmed their routes. If there are any agreements yet to be signed, we have to make sure that everything is ratified, that all procurement agreements are really confirmed between all parties involved in the process. We have to make sure that this year we are able to finish studies and design planning in this year, next year, as it is envisaged in the CEF agreements, so that we can really prove that we're able to work with the project and deliver to be able to get future financing. And I strongly believe that if the project is well managed and it has good, transparent, professional governments, then we will also be able to demonstrate project maturity with that. Where are we in the three different countries? Most of the environmental impact assessments have been completed and agreed on in all three countries, and you see that the preliminary design and the different sketch phases, or sketch phase at least in Latvia, and processes in the three countries are slightly different, because the Rail Baltica route alignment is still underway. The route is fully aligned and approved from the Estonian-Latvian border to Kaunas. Estonia is still underway in the route approval, and we trust that it will happen by the end, by the third quarter of this year. And we are doing an upgrade feasibility study in Lithuania for the portion from Kaunas to the Lithuanian-Polish border to see how we can ensure that the tracks there, or the infrastructure that is being built there, aligns even closer with the specifications of the global project. For us, the main tasks in 2017 are very clear. First and foremost, we are well underway to completing the organization of RB Rail itself. As I mentioned at the beginning of the year, or at the end of last year, we were, a dozen. Now we're over 24. We will be 34 by the end of the year and 50-something next year. That's a lot of uptake in terms of processes, people, procedures, etc. Secondly, we will have common procurement procedures finalized, and we will share them with you today. We will have a lot of project studies to deliver, as mentioned before, and you'll see a little bit more about it a little bit later. And clearly, we are into building closer partnerships with Poland and Finland right now to make sure that we have better interoperability, and possibly also both of the countries as our shareholders. Last but not least, this year you see that we have finalized now the common procurement procedures. We are completing this year design guidelines and some other feasibility studies for the project. We trust that the route will be approved in all three countries, or fixed close enough that we know really where and what we are building, and that the route design will be commenced. So it is a very fast but very complex and very important delivery that we have to make so that we can start building in 2018, 2019, 2020, depending on what the situation is. Thank you very much. Oh, no, maybe not thank you very much. We have one more. There you go. To go. Outstanding issues in the three countries. is, of course, also related to preliminary design for the railway, and we still need to do consolidated preliminary design for the entire railway. In Estonia, we already have the construction of the tram line link from the from the projected Rail Baltica Ülemiste passenger terminal to Tallinn's airport, and of course, in all three countries, everybody's dealing with land acquisition. Thank you very much, and I leave the floor to more practical issues.